r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. Has anyone ever given a nice guy a chance after they've thrown a tantrum because you didn't let them treat you like a queen? And if you did, how did it work out? I finally allowed him to take me on a date to breakfast. Figured midday would be ideal to meet up in public. I offended him immediately when I spoke to the waitress. I said, "We have two," when she asked how many we had. He insisted that she was asking him, not me, and I emasculated him in public. I laughed it off as a joke. I grew up with all brothers. Surely, he was trying to be funny. We sat down. The waitress asked for our order. I gave her mine. He groaned and asked her to come back in a second. He told me proper protocol was for me to discuss what I wanted to eat with him, allow him to make the decision, and he was supposed to relay that to the waitress, not me. I told him he was crazy and left. Blocked his number. Ghosted completely. He told me proper protocol was for me to discuss what I wanted to eat with him, allow him to make the decision, and he was supposed to relay that to the waitress, not me. That was the proper protocol. In FI 1945. Nobody does that crap anymore. What a thin-skinned butthole. I had a similar experience. I went out for lunch with a guy a few years ago. I knew he was a Bronx before that, but he seemed nice enough. It was apparent he didn't even bother to shower, shave or use deodorant. I was instantly annoyed. He was mad because I decided I wanted to order pasta, which isn't a meal for a proper lady and even less so in public. We shared friends, so I stayed anyway. Didn't want to be rude and it was a public place after all. He talked about some background pony. It was really important for him to point out it isn't one of the main characters, and how graceful and kind she is until our food arrived and then ate with such a manner I couldn't eat anymore. He chewed with his mouth open, half of the food falling out of his face again. After that he told me no girl ever wants him. He doesn't know why, but no girl reaches his standards, like the kind pony, anyway. I still smiled because I still didn't want to be rude. My sister texted me, because she saw me through the window of the place we were eating at, and asked what the hell is wrong with me. At this point the guy started to pull up naughty of this pony in his phone. I answered her I honestly don't know anymore, and she called me telling me I should pay and go home now. She doesn't want that unshowered guy as a brother-in-law or she is going to run into the restaurant and fake an emergency. The naughty would have been enough, but at this point I stood up, told him I'm going home and went my way. Still wasn't the worst date I had. I was the nice guy who got turned down for a second date. I said the same BS that any nice guy says when that happens, i.e., all women are the same. Say they want nice guys, only date buttholes, etc. She said, well, fine. Let's have that second date, but doesn't it make you feel weird to have to convince someone to date you? Don't you want someone who wants to be with you? Me. Changed absolutely everything about dating for me. Oh, finally my time to shine? I guess. In high school I briefly dated a nice guy, complete with an actual fedora in 2000 before they were really a thing, thanks art school. I had been in a really horrible, abusive relationship with a guy in his 20s just before, and in fairness my nice guy then friend had been instrumental in helping me to realize how messed up our vibe was and helping me to leave an objectively horrible situation. He then promptly swooped in and started pushing for romantic intimacy between us. He never actually declared feelings, he was never that straightforward about his own thoughts and desires, just talked about the way I deserved to be treated, like a queen, obvs, and made it clear he felt he was the only one who would give me that. Many of my friends were pushing for it as well. He was nice, after all, and my previous boyfriends had been so objectively awful. I felt a lot of obligation and kind of went along on autopilot. There was a lot of negotiation around anything sexual. I treat you so well, don't you want to from him, and I know you want to treat me like a lady, so you'll be okay to take it slow from me. One of the hardest parts was that he clearly wasn't out to hurt me or to screw me. The acts between us, we never slept together, but did other things that seemed like a huge deal to teenaged me, were only a demonstration. Proof that I loved him. That was what he wanted. But I didn't. and I really thought that meant there was something wrong with me. In the end, I only lasted about a month. He decorated my locker, brought flowers, and left notes for me taped to my desk in each of my classes to celebrate our effing 1-month anniversary. I was mortified. My math teacher caught a good look at my face before I managed to plaster a smile back on as I opened the note he had left in her class. She asked me to stay back after for what turned out to be one of the most important talks in my life. Mrs. Brown, just the best. I felt panicked, telling her over and over how happy and lucky I was. She kept asking questions until I burst into tears and it all just came out. I don't really remember what all she said, but I remember her saying it's okay to be alone. She said it over and over, like Robin Williams going "It's not your fault" in Good Will Hunting. And soon enough I was. I broke up with him. Kindly but firmly, and about 5 different times before he accepted it. He cried. He got angry. Absurdly, insanely, his mom called my mom, who dropped the hammer on her in a way I haven't seen before or since. I took a ton of crap at school for breaking his heart and ruining his life, but I felt so free that I didn't really mind. I dated around, but didn't have a boyfriend again until I was 21. It was, truly, okay, and important, and necessary, to be alone. Yeah, it was my first, and last, Tinder date. I went to the guy's house, figured it would be safe since he had 2 roommates. He'd lived with these roommates for 6 months, and when I asked him their names, he couldn't tell me. First red flag. I was like, how? Any sane person would give some attempt to learn their roommates' names. It's not like he was in a basement suite. He shared many common areas with them. When I got there, his house was barely furnished. There was a large TV in the living room and no seating whatsoever. He quickly scrambled upstairs to get to child-sized egg chairs and planted them in front of the TV. The TV was playing a movie that was mostly naughty, super inappropriate for a first date. I figured he was trying to get me horny. It just made me uncomfortable. As did the egg chair I didn't fit in. He promptly signaled for me to come sit on his lap. I figured it might be more comfortable than the chair I was in. At one point he went in for a kiss and I thought, what the heck, might as well try to enjoy myself. It was awful. All I could feel were his teeth and his lizard tongue punching my uvula. I actually had to hold back gags. After that I waited about 15 minutes before signaling that I was going to leave. Mostly to preserve his feelings. So after the date I messaged him saying I couldn't see a second date happening. I was as nice as humanly possible. He lost it. You're just a whore. Didn't want you anyways. Now you are showing your true colors. And then switched to, I love you though. I was going to bring you to Greece. He flip-flopped between those 2 states and called me, no answer, every 3 minutes until I blocked him on everything. I deleted Tinder. My wife did while she was in college. He had constant low self-esteem which annoyed her. He also loved making fun of other people. Sounds like he was just a toxic guy. When she broke up with him he wrote a suicide note naming her as the reason and showed up on campus with a gun. Fortunately nothing happened. He got some therapy and wasn't allowed back at the school. A girlfriend told me that when she was still new to dating, she gave a nice guy a shot. They were in different states and after weeks of owing him a sexy picture or video she agreed to FaceTime him with a wink-wink agreement that things might get steamy. The day comes and this 300 pounds and washed dude called her 190 pounds, 5'6", nice, but bigger than he liked and suggested she start working out. He then pushed for an in-person visit near him so that he could show her the wonders of carnal things. She ghosted him shortly after that. I had a guy who would constantly ask me out or make really awkward advances for like a year. I finally hit a pretty low point after coming out of a relationship and agreed to go out on a date. He seemed actually kind of nice and we ended up dating and lived together for a bit. It all turned sour though, when he realized that all his cute punk girl bullshit he had projected onto me wasn't who I am and I wasn't changing to what he wanted me to be, and then all of a sudden he was out with friends constantly and coming home drunk. The morning he came home, around 6 AM, telling me he kissed another woman finally woke me up and I left him. He would still send me messages for months after we broke up, not acknowledging my replies, saying I have a boyfriend and it's inappropriate to say these things. Even now if I unblock him from social media, I'll get a message within a few days saying things like, "Hey, still beautiful I see," or "Hey cutie sweetie," etc etc, and he gets blocked again. My sister did. She is a hairstylist and one of her clients was very aggressive about asking her out. He repeatedly bought flowers, concert tickets, and other gifts which he brought to her at work, and she said no each time because he seemed a little off. He got in a car accident and was really badly injured, and she felt sorry for him, so she went out with him finally. They dated a few months before breaking up. I don't know the exact reason why, but after that he started stalking her. It's been over 5 years since then and he is still keeping tabs on her. She's reported him to the police multiple times, has a restraining order, and has blocked him on Facebook or everywhere else, but every few months he finds a way to contact her. So if you get weird vibes from someone, don't give them a chance or you might end up with a lifelong stalker like my sister has. I didn't, but my friend did. See, me and this guy had a mutual friend. This guy saw himself as a white knight and would use that term to describe himself. He had a code of honor, and he was always somebody who'd walk the girl home, lend out his jacket, that sort of thing. Well, mutual friend was asked out by this guy, and he threw a fit when she turned him down. So, she gave him a chance. At first, she was happy. He pulled out chairs, lent her his jacket, brought her gifts, that kind of thing. But it became apparent that he was incredibly possessive and things were always on his terms. So, they broke up. About 6 months after this guy was dumped, he decided he liked me. Telling him I wasn't interested didn't work the first or second time, so the third time I decided to just come out and tell him I was asexual. I hadn't done so before because I wasn't sure how he'd take it. He decided that I was lucky he was such a nice guy, because if he wasn't then he'd have taken that as a challenge. I haven't hung out with this guy since then. Just, no. Edit, mutual not mutual. Thanks. The old most guys were just blank, but I'm not going to cause I'm nice. The "you're lucky I'm nice" just sounds rapey and super condescending. Met a guy online and he seemed really nice. He was a tad pushy about meeting up, but I ignored that little feeling. We met up shortly after for a quick date. I think we got coffee and chatted. It was instant chemistry. He had 2 sons and I have 2 kids, both open to blended families, goal-oriented, smart, easy conversation. We decided to go out again the next night. Really nice date and he was a complete gentleman. He mentioned on the date we'd have to get the kids together to see if they like each other. I laughed it off, like yeah maybe down the road. We just met and continued the date. 2 days later, during our texting I casually mentioned I was going to take my kids on a nature walk and I'd text him when I was back. He shows up with his kids. Now, I don't have it in me to be mean to children, so I played nice and introduced myself. They were around 5 and 7, and very sweet boys, but inside I was creeped the F out. After we parted ways I called him and told him that was not cool at all. Of course, he played victim and hurt until I said I was uncomfortable with what he did. Then it was "I'm just trying to love you and your kids. How can we be together if they don't meet? And you should appreciate a man trying with a woman with 2 kids." As if he didn't have to his damn self. He sent angry messages for about a week. I never would respond and he went away. To clarify, this all happened in a 2-week span. From start to finish. I dated one for 2 years. He seemed nice and was happy when I first started dating him, cause girls didn't give him a chance due to his looks. He was super nerdy. I was 16 and he was 19. He was very needy and always demanded we do what he wanted. I missed out on a lot of things, including missing out going to see Phantom of the Opera with his mom, because he didn't want to go and would get sick at the last minute. When I lost my virginity to him, he said I basically raped him because he didn't realize he wasn't ready for something like that till after we had sex. About 1.5 years into our relationship he got religious. So then, Whenever we had sex, he would want us to pray for forgiveness afterwards. But if I refused sex, I was a cold bitch. I actually left him for a female partner, I am bi, and that's when I realized that it was a super unhealthy relationship. Edit. Holy crap. Thanks for all of the upvotes. I did not think this would blow up like it did. Never have I ever heard of someone praying after sex. That's like serial killer stuff. Glad you're okay. Grew up in the Bible Belt. Had friends who slept around, but just prayed their virginity back because they were saving themselves for marriage. LOL. Way too many times in college. I had guys in the friend zone who I decided to give a chance because I was stupid and I felt sorry for them. My last straw was when a guy took me shopping. I said yes in lonely desperation on a Friday night. This was a Saturday afternoon. After every store I went into, he would either criticize me for not wanting him to buy me anything, I'm not much of a shopper anyways, or ask me for sex because he bought me a used video game I wanted. Never again. There's a good reason incels are incels. Damn, this thread makes me feel like a great dude. I did. It was like dating Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Treated me like royalty when he was pleased with my behavior, then either snapped into a rage or retreated into wounded silence at the slightest perceived wrongdoing. Expected me to be the Madonna and the whore, whichever he preferred at the time, and if I failed to anticipate his will, I was shamed and berated. Never again. I had an experience with a nice girl. Red flags everywhere, but I have it a shot. Extremely bad situation. It began with her moving into my place without asking within the first 2 weeks, thinking it would be a surprise that I would or should love. She didn't work, but expected me to make all the money and also do every single chore since it was my apartment. It was only our apartment when she wanted to decorate something her way or change my stuff around. She had tantrums about everything possible, and if nothing was wrong she'd make something up to lose her mind about. She also hit me with the "why don't more guys just want someone who will love them unconditionally?" The irony of that escaped her. Men should want crazy girls because they're crazy because they love you. Yeah, screw that. She did do this thing where I would come home from work and she would be naked except for an apron, thinking that was a classic man fantasy and expected the world for doing it. It was great until I quickly realized it was for leverage. She expected the world of me while claiming to be the greatest woman on earth despite not ever showing the least bit of actual respect. Yes, but the same problem in opposite direction. Dated a girl where we had been friends for a while. She shot me down in my teens, but we stayed friends, talked all the time. Eventually she decided to give us a shot. Cheated on me with a coworker after 6 months because I treated her as an equal and she thought I'd treat her like a princess instead of my equal. Found out on Christmas Eve. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening.